if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of North Texas and you are holding off to buy in 2025 so far because of the high interest rates, I do recommend that you consider an option that would allow you to buy now while the prices are suppressed due to the high interest rates, but buy it at a lower interest rate. Okay, there are a couple of ways to do it. And one straightforward way that every realtor will tell you about is called the buy down of the interest rate. Buy down of the interest rate means you take a regular interest rate, you pay some extra money at closing, and you buy that interest rate down to 5 or by 2%, by 2 points or 3 points, creating that 4% interest rate or 5% interest rate. But that's not what this video is about. There is another way to find properties that you can obtain with a lower interest rate without going through the buy down process. And also, just a cherry on the top, those properties could end up being cheaper to buy than the one with a buy down of an interest rate. And let me explain. What I do, I'm a realtor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. I'm with Keller Williams Central 75 in Richardson. And what I specialize in are properties called subject to an existing loan or wrap properties. So what does that mean? It means that the seller of the property holds a loan, and that loan is currently at a low interest rate. Let's just say that the seller of a property holds a loan with 2.5% interest rate on it, or maybe 3% interest rate on it, sometimes even lower. So what I know what to do is how to approach sellers who hold that low interest rate and to propose to them a creative financing deal, which will allow them to sell the property easier and cheaper than they would in an open market if they allowed you to take over their low interest rate loan. How would you do it? There is actually 3 ways for you to achieve that. One is called assumable loan. Assumable loan means you can assume somebody else's low APR loan with the permission of the bank, with the permission of the lender. Number 2 is a mortgage wrap, where you take an existing mortgage with a low interest rate and you ask the owner to seller finance you the purchase, and he creates a wrap. Let's just say that his interest rate is 2.5. He issues you a loan for 3.5%. Let's just say interest rate or 4% interest rate, and now you pay him a 4% interest rate, he pays the bank 2.5% interest rate, and he keeps the difference. That's a form of passive investment for some sellers. So that's a mortgage wrap, the definition of a mortgage wrap. And then the third way is to do subject to an existing loan. In that particular case, instead of the seller issuing you a loan at, let's just say, 3.5 or 4% interest rate, he allows you to just take over his existing mortgage at 2.5% interest rate without charging anything, without giving you a new loan, without giving you a sort of finance note. That is called taking the property subject to an existing loan. And the only difference between assumable mortgage and taking the property subject to an existing loan is that in an assumable mortgage, the lender actually goes through the process of approving you for the loan. For example, FHA loan or VA loan or conventional loan, you have to actually be able to be approved for that specific type of loan, for that specific loan amount. And in the event of a subject to an existing loan type of a transaction, the lender is not aware that you're taking over the loan, and you just do it quietly and you start making payments on behalf of the seller, and the lender doesn't even know that you took over the payments for the mortgage, and you did not go through the approval process. So the subject to an existing loan type of a process is more suited for investors who already have multiple loans, very well suited for people who may not necessarily qualify for a traditional mortgage because of their reporting of their income, or because they don't have necessary paperwork to support their employment, etc. While assumable mortgages are better for people who have all the qualifications to qualify for traditional mortgage, they just want a lower interest rate. Okay, and you'll say, well, that's great, but how do we go about finding those mortgages with those exciting low interest rate scenarios? That is actually so simple. Let me show you. We have a couple of options to look at. Option number one is properties that are currently on the market, which means that they're currently trying to sell and they're advertising their property as available for a takeover of their loan using an assumable mortgage. Let me show you the map and how many properties we're talking about, so you can see that it's not just one or two random properties. Let's take a look. Okay, I hope you can see my screen right now. And what you see on my screen is the MLS, multiple listing service for the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. And what you're currently seeing on the screen, my bad, wrong screen, are properties that are listed for sale as of right now, the day of the recording, with the possibility of you taking over an assumable mortgage for them. So as you can see, there are not just one or two properties, there are quite a few of them. And the good thing is that we can use this list to really tone it down and to kind of targeted, segmented to really fit your needs. So for example, let's just say that you tell me that you want to have a monthly payment of no more than, let's just say, $2,500 or $3,000. I start to research and I look at property that could potentially fit into that calculation. So let's take a look. Let's just say we're looking for properties under $400,000 and we need 3+ bedrooms, and they need to be only single family homes. By the way, if we include condominiums and townhomes, mobile and manufactured homes, there will be even more properties for us to look at. And you say, I want it to be no less than 2,000 square feet. And then you say, I don't want to be an HOA. My bad, I don't want to be an HOA. So you give me a whole list of scenarios where you say, this is the type of property that I'm looking for. And then we could narrow it down to see what's available with specifications that you have for the property. Now, that is for properties that are currently listed for sale. They currently have a realtor. If we were to propose one of the three solutions, remember we have three solutions: subject to an existing loan, mortgage wrap, and assumable mortgage. So these people are advertising assumable mortgage, but to be honest, once they agree to do an assumable mortgage, it's only a matter of persuasion to get them to agree to a plan in which a mortgage wrap or a subject to an existing loan becomes a possibility. But as you can see, once we have the list, we can then approach the sellers and see if they would be willing to go into the additional scenarios that are a little bit more creative than what they are expecting, especially since they're not selling. As you can see, some of them been on the market for 157 days. If they've been in the market for over, like, just say 90 days, chances are very high that they will be willing to listen to whatever offer that you present, especially if you have the knowledge and the experience to show them that you know how to conduct such a transaction and that that transaction will be safe for them as sellers. Now, those are properties that are currently being listed for sale. It means that they currently have a realtor. Now, them being listed for sale and having a realtor is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it allows you to easily go and take a look at the property, visit the property, walk it through, research it, etc. On another hand, the fact that they do have a realtor makes it a little bit more challenging because not all realtors are really familiar with topics such as mortgage wrap or subject to an existing loan, and they just may, due to their lack of experience with those transactions, they might even decline to discuss these topics with us because they don't know how to do those types of transactions. Now, we do have an additional source of information So this would be the on-market properties. You can see them on Zillow, you can see them on MLS. We do have an additional potential source of additional properties that are called expired and canceled. That means that these properties tried to sell in the last year and they couldn't sell for whatever reason. They withdrew from the property, they took the house off the market, and they're maybe waiting to sell in the 2025 during the spring, summer seller season, or seller, how would I sell it? It would be more of a seller market in the spring and summer of 2025 than it was, let's just say, in the fall of 2024. So these people are interested in selling, ready to sell. They couldn't sell in 2024. So they're waiting, but they are definitely somebody we could approach and say, tell us a little bit more about what solutions you're looking for. So maybe we could tailor a solution to you and sell it, and you could sell your property without going back on the market or withstanding all of that typical abuse that the sellers have to sustain, especially if they're showing house in which they live currently in. We could make it easy and sweet for them, and we could advertise the fact that since you're not represented by a realtor, you don't need to pay any kind of realtor fees for you or for me, and you and I would have some kind of a private agreement on how we could arrange the payment for my services. But we could tell the sellers, hey, it's a very easy deal. You don't need to pay for realtors. Let's just do it. And chances are very high that if they're not currently represented by a realtor and they're really waiting to sell, they're biding their time, they could enter into a conversation and try to find a potential point of agreement with you on pricing, on details, on timing, etc. So for that reason, if you're interested in looking into the off-market properties, the one that are expired and cancels, I do have a database of those properties already waiting for us to be used. I accumulate those properties, information about those expired and cancels as time goes by, and I have quite a few for us to choose from. Okay, now let me show you how we could execute the most important part of approaching sellers who are interested in doing assumable mortgage. And that is, how do we find people whose interest rate is so low as to make the transaction potentially beneficial to you? Let's give it a let's take a look. 1 second. But once we identify the list of properties that fit your criteria, and they already advertise themselves as available for purchase with assumable mortgage, we would then be able to research that list to narrow it down even further to see if we can get the absolutely best possible deal for you. How would we do that? So once we download the data, I can then run it through some additional data aggregators to gain more insights into their current financial situations. And what we could find out is, for example, how much equity they have in a property. This could be a very good guide for us to see whether or not they are in a position to even offer us the property at the term that would make sense for everybody. But most importantly, we do have, hold on 1 second, we do have a mortgage rate. So let me go ahead and open the mortgage rate. And for now, I typically keep it closed for purposes of keeping things, private on the internet. But as you can see, let's go ahead and sort and filter by the mortgage interest rates. You can see how low we can go with some interest rates. So let's just say, take these people, for example. So anybody who is in, just say, up to 3% interest rate, which is how many people right here, which is about 300 people throughout the DFW, they have an interest rate of less than 3%. So for those people, we could approach them with the proposition of doing either a mortgage wrap or a subject to an existing loan. A lot of it will depend on their situation and what kind of, whether they want to just a long conversation. I'm sorry. There's a lot of considerations, but there are scenarios under which either a mortgage wrap in which they charge you an additional percentage and then keep the difference as passive income, or just allow you to take over their existing mortgage. There are different scenarios under which both of those could be viable for them and be more interesting than others. But long story short, as you can see, in the last year, over 300 sellers with interest rates below 3% were not able to sell their properties. And chances are that those sellers did not have a really good realtor by their side who could guide them toward a creative financing solution to allow them to sell their property and move on with their life. So now that we know that we do have sellers both currently selling and who tried to sell in the past, we have these great interest rates. What are the next steps? Give me just 1 second. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, now let's talk about the next steps. So the next steps are, if you're currently working with a realtor, unfortunately, I'm not able to help you because once you start working with a realtor with whom you have a signed document saying that that realtor represents you, unfortunately, I cannot enter into that conversation. Then your realtor will need to help you to navigate through that research, etc. But if you're not currently working with a realtor and you're still just now starting to look around and see what's available, and you don't have a commitment or a written agreement with any realtor, then your next step would be to contact me and let me know that you are in the market for a property, but you are worried about high interest rates. So what then I will do is we will have a sit down together to discuss the parameters of your search and to make sure that you understand what the mortgage wrap, the loan takeover, or the loan assumption, or subject to an existing loan, how those three methods would help you, and also the pluses and minuses of each method so you understand which one of them looks more viable to you. And once we have that understanding, then with that information, I could then create a list of properties, just like the one that I showed you on the map. And then we can start negotiating with the sellers to see if we can secure an offer, accepted offer for you. If you do not understand fully the process of subject to an existing loan, mortgage wrap on or assumable mortgages, that is okay. In about a couple of months, I'm going to have a whole series of videos explaining all of these topics to my viewers. Until that time, unfortunately, I will have to do like either Google that information, or we can sit down and I can explain to you how it looks like, what kind of paperwork will be involved, and especially what kind of minuses, because nothing is ever free, right? The only free cheese is the one in a mousetrap, right? So nothing is ever free. If you're getting this low interest rate, it means that there got to be a negative offset somewhere else. Only question is that negative offset really important to you or not? Now, I will say this, that the subject to an existing loan and a mortgage wrap, in my opinion, are best suited for people who can either A, easily qualify for a property, but for whatever reason they just don't like the current interest rates, but otherwise they're fully qualified for a loan, or B, investors who are buying an investment property. They may not be the best scenario for people who would not otherwise be able to qualify for traditional loan, simply because all of these creative structures can sometimes hit a snag, and if they do hit a snag, then unless you're able to refinance the property with a proper lender, then you might find yourself in a difficult situation selling the property sooner than you would expect. All of this will be explained once we meet and sit down and discuss what your true interests and priorities are. Okay, that's it for now. My name is Elena Garrett, and I am a realtor with Keller Williams Central in Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. I specialize in creative financing, financing for investors, financing for investors, financing for people who would not normally qualify for traditional mortgages, and financing for sellers who feel stuck with their current mortgages and do not know how to exit them. Thank you so much for viewing my video, and like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Hopefully, I will continue to keep you informed about the best ways to purchase properties without paying the same prices as everybody else. See you later.